Welcome back to Enlightened Tutors TCG. As always, I'm your host, Garrett. Today, we will begin our lessons in the Pokemon TCG Online. This game is very user-friendly and has a phenomenal tutorial that I will be walking you through today, as well as discussing our strategy for the Trainer Challenge. But we'll burn that bridge when we get there. Let's get right into it. So, here, this is the typical game board. This is our deck, this is our opponent's deck, this is our deck box, and this is the coin. Down here is our hand. Here is our bench, and here's our active spot. We'll get into that as it shows us more. If we read our tutorial here from our lovely assistant, it says let's take a look at a Pokemon card. Right-click on Eevee to zoom in. By the way, Zach will be helping us out today. Zach is our stand-in opponent. This is him here. He's a scrub. So if we click over, we can see that it breaks down what each Pokemon card says. So the stage up here is basic. Stage is what level, and if you can just play the card immediately onto the field. The hit points is 50. The attacks are Smash Kick and Tail Whap. Smash Kick has an energy cost of 1 and deals 10 damage, whereas Tail Whip has a energy cost of 2 and deals 20 damage. Down here are the weaknesses. The retreat cost, this is a little bit more advanced. So as you can see, it is basic. It has 2 different attacks, and it has 50 base HP. So we're going to click on the playmat on Zoom. We're going to click and drag this right into play. This is into our active position. So what just happened is our prize cards got dealt out. And what prize cards are is after each player takes their opening hand, you set 6 cards face down off the top of your deck. Winning the game requires you to take all 6 of these cards or to knock out all of your opponent's Pokemon that are on the board. So, energy, as I said earlier, allows Pokemon to attack. You cannot attack on the first turn, that's why the AI didn't hit us. If we look at his card, his Rattata, if we mouse over it, we can see that it has 40 HP, and it has 1 attack, Gnaw, that does 20 damage. So, as you can see here, the player who goes first can't attack, but since we went second, we can attack. So we're going to click on our Eevee, we're going to click on the attack that we want to use, and it's just going to smack him for us. You know, a little bop and boop. It does 10 damage, Rattata has 40, and it has 1 damage counter, which sets its HP to 30. If we get its HP all the way to 0, it is knocked out. And the same thing goes for ours. So here we have another energy card. This particular type is a lightning energy. Different attacks require different energy sources. However, our normal types, which is indicated by this, requires any flavor of energy will work for it. So here we can see that it costs 2 of any type of energy, otherwise known as colorless energy. So here we're going to attack with our Tail Whap, deal 20 and set it down to 30, and set him down to just 10 HP remaining. So, as we can see, our opponent has now played a second Pokemon card, and this is on his bench. So the way the bench works is that they are on the field but not in your hand. They cannot. The only Pokemon that may attack is the Pokemon on the active spot, but some Pokemon have effects that trigger from your bench. We will see that later in this tutorial. Here we've drawn a card called Potion. What Potion is a trainer card. Trainer cards can be played at any time, and they have different classes: Item, Supporter, Stadium. And what trainer cards do is they are usually played, and then they're one-time effects. Items you can play any number of times during your turn. However, supporters you may only play once during your turn. So here we're going to right-click on our Potion. What this does is it heals 30 damage from one of our Pokemon. We're going to drag that out to our Eevee. We're going to heal it for 30. And then we're going to Tail Whap. So, when we knock out a Pokemon, we get to take a prize card. We take all of our prize cards to win the game. And usually we just, you can take any one that you want. So, now, since we knocked out his active, the Meowth gets to come forward and attack us. So, a very important thing to realize about Pokemon is this idea of card advantage. You want to draw, if you get to play more cards than your opponent, you have a bigger advantage to win. Knocking out your opponent's Pokemon is one way to draw extra cards. So that's why it's very important to try to get knockouts whenever possible. So our opponent decides to roll the dice and go for a big Fury Swipes play. And it doesn't quite pay off for him. So, back here on our bench, we got our Pikachu. And our Pikachu, again, is a basic with 60 HP that has 2 different attacks. Quick Attack, which does 10, plus potentially 10 more damage on a coin flip. Or Electro Ball, which requires 2 lightning energy and 1 of any other. So, we're going to continue to chip in with our Eevee here. And our opponent's just going to draw his card and attack. So something that's very important about this game is even though you get card advantage by knocking out your opponent, attacking always ends your turn. So what you want to do is so you are forced to play all of the cards in your hand before you want to attack. Otherwise, you'll have to hold on to the cards into your hand until your next turn. So here, with just easy breezy Electro Ball the Meowth, we'll take our prize card, and because our opponent has no Pokemon left on the board, we win the game. So now we get to continue on to the tutorial. It says, good job. My daughter Ella is going to help us teach some more advanced rules. Get right into it. We're going first this time. We have a phenomenal hand of Eevee plus 6 energies. This will let us pay for any energy costs of anything that we draw later. For this tutorial, you can see that we've only started with 2 prize cards. We're going to play an energy onto our Eevee, and because it's our first turn, we have to click done to pass. So there are some advantages and disadvantages to going first. We'll get into those a little bit later on in this video. So here, we have our Eevee. Once again, we're going to Tail Whap the Jigglypuff. Now, the Jigglypuff has an attack that's very high rolly. It averages dealing 5 damage, which is something to very much keep in mind, is that the average damage of this move is very weak, and it's important to not be afraid. So we're going to stay in here, and we're going to Tail Whap. Something we could do is retreat to our Pikachu, but alright, so something very important just happened. Our opponent has evolved his Jigglypuff into Wigglytuff. So Wigglytuff is a stage 1. And what stage 1 means is that you can't just play it from your hand onto the board. You have to play it onto whatever the signified pre-evolution is. So here we can see that it evolves from Jigglypuff. So we have to have a card named Jigglypuff on the board. So we're going to do something really similar, and we're going to play Raichu to evolve our Pikachu. Raichu, stage 1, 90 HP, and then it has 2 attacks. So, usually, or almost always, evolutions are stronger than basics. And then certain Pokemon can evolve again, like to what is called stage 2. And stage 2 is the highest evolution point. So, we have our Raichu. We're going to use our Thunder Shock attack, which we flip a coin, and if it's heads, our opponent is paralyzed, and we fail. So what paralysis does is they cannot attack, and they cannot retreat with their Pokemon. So it just kind of freezes them and makes them skip their next action with that Pokemon. So here we can see that because this is close to being knocked out, something that the opponent can do is it can pay the retreat cost to run away to the bench with this Pokemon. So, and you have to have another Pokemon on your bench to retreat into. So, he swapped into Sandshrew and used Double Scratch. Double Scratch did 10 damage, but because Raichu has a weakness, as signified on the bottom left, it means that our Raichu takes double damage from fighting type attacks, which is what the orange is usually referred to as. So here we're going to set another Pikachu onto our bench. And we have some options here. We can apply the energy to either Raichu or to Pikachu. The correct play is to play the energy onto Raichu, so that when we use Electro Ball, we one-shot the Sandshrew and get to take a prize card. We get another energy, and because our opponent moved their Wigglytuff to the bench, that was their only option, it has to come back forward. So, something important to keep in mind, like, retreating should be a last case resort, because retreating is expensive. Because you can only play one energy each turn, spending that energy to retreat out doesn't help. You're reversing the amount of progress that you've made. So here we're going to play an electric energy on our Pikachu. We're actually going to hold the potion to see if we can get the full 30-point value out of it. And we're going to Electro Ball the Wigglytuff. And this was just a 2-price card game, so knocking out the Wigglytuff just wins us the game. As per the tutorial, normally you'd want to hold on to it for the next matchup. So here we get some in-game currency. This is what we're used to buy our cards later. We'll get into all that. So we did a great job, and we're going to get to see how we do against other trainers. If we defeat them, we get a booster pack and a powerful Pokemon V. And we're going to play against this scrub over here named Calvin. It's important to always think of your opponents in these card games as someone that is, easy to defeat, because it helps with your confidence. It'll help you play better. So here our opponent's playing a card called Ether. It reveals the top card of his deck, and if it's an energy, he gets to put it onto one of his Pokemon. If it's not, it goes back on top. So he revealed a water energy, and he put it over here on his Panpour, and then he played the one from his hand onto his Rattata. So earlier I said that certain Pokemon have effects while they're on the bench. The Squirtle is one such effect. So it has this ability called Shell Shield. As long as it's on your bench, it can't be dealt any damage. So some Pokemon have effects that deal damage to the active and then to the bench. Squirtle stops that from happening. So here we pushed out the Electabuzz early because it has more HP, and it gives us time to use our heals. So we're going to set up one lightning energy, and we're going to light punch the Rattata. So this is a good setup because next turn we can use ambush. If we win the coin flip, we'll KO the Rattata, and we'll get to start taking our prize cards. So we're going to play this. So usually you want to keep your bench open so when you draw other Pokemon later, you have more space to play them. Here we're going to run out the Spearow because it's a basic that can evolve. If we draw our Fearow later in the game, we want to make sure that we can play it as soon as we draw it. So we're going to get that out onto the board. So now we have no other plays. We're going to ambush the Rattata. We miss the coin flip, so we don't get the KO, and we don't get to take a prize card. Squirtle into water energy is fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use Potion on the Electabuzz. The reason we're using Potion is because we get all 30 points of value out of it. So, and here we have another interesting decision. We can either start putting lightning energies on our Spearow or onto our Pikachu. It is probably more beneficial to put it on Pikachu because we have all 3 lightning energies in our hand to use its powerful Electro Ball attack. So we're going to set this up. We're going to ambush and knock out the Rattata. The Rattata is knocked out, and know that when something is knocked out, all of the energies go to the discard with it. Or anything attached goes to the discard with it. So here our opponent sends up a Panpour. This is very good for us because Panpour has a weakness to lightning type attacks. So there's a very good chance that we can just knock this out. We're not going to heal with Pokemon Center Lady, which heals for 60, because we don't get the full value, and nothing on the board can one-shot our Electabuzz from its current HP. We're also not going to use Switch, because Electabuzz has the highest damage potential of anything on our board. So we win the coin flip, the weakness applies, we knock out the Panpour, and we draw our prize card. So we get 75 gold. We're going to jump right into the next game against Ali here. So a good indicator against the AI for like what type of deck they're playing is signified here by their deck box. This is important to know because, for example, psychic types usually share a common weakness to either other psychic types or to dark types. So if you have access to one of those types in your deck, then you can better prioritize to hit weaknesses. Just a little tip against the AI. Here we're going to start with Electabuzz and Pikachu right on the bench. Pikachu goes right on the bench because if we draw Raichu, it can evolve on our next turn. So our opponent plays Town Map, and Town Map is a very good example of what I like to call a trap, or it's a new player trap. So what it does is it's an item that turns all of your prize cards face up. So what this does is when you knock out your opponent's Pokemon later, you get to choose which card you want, and you get to have more information. The thing is, though, that Town Map doesn't allow you to actually use the card. So it doesn't like actually draw anything. It's card disadvantage because it doesn't replace itself. It just has an effect but does nothing. So here we're going to use probably Misty's Determination, which discards a card, and we get to look at the top 8 and put one of them into our hand. So we're going to play our Lightning Energy on Electabuzz. We're going to play Misty's Determination, and we're going to discard one of the other Lightning Energies. These decks are usually really heavy in them. Like, for example, there's 5 in our top 8. So this gives us some options. So we have 2 things to consider. One is we take our Raichu and evolve our Pikachu immediately, or we take Spearow to potentially evolve into the Fearow in our hand. So if we come over here and look at Fearow, it does 30 damage for 1 energy and has 100 HP. However, its strong attack costs 4 energy to play, which is very far out. So we're going to come back over here to show cards, and we're going to choose Raichu because it's a little easier to get set up and get going. So we're going to take Raichu. We can't evolve until our next turn because this is our first turn. And we're going to go on ahead and Light Punch the Grimer. So Grimer is a psychic type that has Lure Poison. And this is a very dangerous effect and something to keep in mind. So what Poison does is whenever a Pokemon is poisoned, you put 1 damage counter on it between each player's turn. Lure Poison, the attack that hit us, pulls one of our Pokemon off of our bench into the main slot to hit us. So what we're going to do is we're going to evolve into Raichu, because when you evolve, it removes all of the special conditions that the Pokemon beneath it is affected by. However, it keeps all of the damage that it's taken. So it took 10 damage. However, it is no longer poisoned. So we're going to put 1 energy on our Raichu. Raichu's retreat cost is 1, so we're not going to retreat, and we're just going to pass the turn back. So our opponent gets up to the 3 energies to use Sludge Toss. And it's not a threat. Currently, there's nothing on the board that threatens to knock out our Raichu if we don't heal it, so we're going to stay greedy. We're going to wait until we get all 60 points of healing out of our Pokemon Center Lady. So here, we can use Evo Soda. So what Evo Soda does is it's an item that lets us tutor, which means search through your deck, for a Pokemon. For a card that evolves from one of our Pokemon and put it onto it, which counts as the evolution. You may only evolve the Pokemon once each turn. Afterwards, we shuffle our deck, and we can't use this on our first turn or any time that we couldn't normally evolve the Pokemon. So we're going to go ahead and use Evo Soda. And unfortunately, this deck does not have anything that can evolve from Electabuzz. So this has no copies of Electivire. We do, however, it is very important when you play normally to when you look through your deck to take note of what is here and what is missing. Because if you know what's missing, you know what you're likely to draw from the prize cards and know if it's important or not. It also lets you keep track of lines that you need to go for in the future. So for example, maybe this deck does have a copy of Electivire, which is the evolution of Electabuzz, but the one copy is in our prize cards. So we're going to click done, shuffle up the deck, play our second energy, and we're going to Thundershock the Grimer. So our opponent plays Roller Skates. Some decks do play Roller Skates, which is flip a coin if heads, draw 3. It's potentially a lot of value, but not always. So here, our Raichu's here. We get the full 60 points of healing from our Pokemon Center Lady, so we're going to use it. We don't have the extra energy to use Electro Ball. Luckily for us, Thundershock knocks out our opponent's Grimer this turn. And we get to take a prize card. We're going to take the odd one out. And it's Tierno. We'll discuss Tierno when it gets back to our turn. So, our opponent evolves his Coughing that's on his bench into Wheezing. So, Wheezing is a stage 1. As you can see, it evolves from Coughing. And this card has the Team Plasma tag. Whenever there's a tag that's like associated with a team or like Elite Four, it'll be up here. Certain cards interact with this, but we're not going to get into that right now. So it has an ability called Aftermath. Whenever we knock this Pokemon out, the top 3 cards of our deck go straight into our discard pile. So it mills us. And then it has an attack for a poison, or a psychic, and a colorless, that does 20 damage to each of our Pokemon. That can really stack up against if we keep a lot of Pokemon on the bench. Unfortunately, we're going to play our Spearow this turn. That way it can evolve into Fearow, and we can start to have another decent threat available to us. So we're going to Tierno. Tierno just straight draws 3 as a supporter. It's mediocre. We're not going to play the Electabuzz because we already have one out, and we don't want to let our opponent stack too much damage on us with Wheezing. We are going to play the extra energy onto Raichu, and then Potion. That way he is fully healed, and he's ready to start Electro Balling to deal 80 damage to our opponent's Pokemon. Stage 1s that deal 80 to 100 damage are usually very viable, and they're good cards to look out for as a beginner. So something else, if you were paying attention, that we noticed is that there is no cards in this deck that evolve from Eevee. So we're actually not going to put our Eevee into play because we don't want it to be a target. So here we're just going to go on ahead, and we have 2 options. No matter what we do, we 2-hit KO. So that means that this turn and the next turn's damage will knock out the Wheezing. So what we should do is we should use Thundershock, because if our opponent hits an energy and they're paralyzed, then they can't attack us. So we're going to use Thundershock and then Electro Ball next turn is our plan. So we missed the Paralyze, but it's still fine. We still have the kill, or we still have the knockout onto our Wheezing. So here, there's not a whole lot for us to do. We're just going to Electro Ball, which is a free knockout. He mills our top 3, or discards the top 3. That was a Voltorb, a Great Ball, and a Professor's Letter. No cards that we specifically cared about. However, the Voltorb would have been nice to evolve into our Electrode. However, we just have 1 prize card left. Our opponent has 70 HP, and an Electro Ball is an easy knockout. So, another victory, because, we're the greatest players to ever grace this place. We get some more in-game coins. And now we meet our final challenge, Otis. Otis is the final match of the tutorial. So we start. Normally there's an animation that plays where you get to where one player gets to call a coin flip. So here we have some options. Pikachu is stronger than Voltorb is, but however, we do have the Electrode in our opening hand. So what our game plan is going to be is we're going to start with Voltorb in the active spot, and then we're going to evolve into Electrode when we get the opportunity to. So we're going to start with Voltorb, play our Pikachu. We're going to play our energy, and we can't play our bicycle currently because we have more than 4 cards in hand. That's why it's not highlighted for us. So our opponent's got a Scyther. It deals 10 and 20 damage with 70 HP. Nothing that we're specifically worried about. We're just going to pass. We take a little bit of damage. It's no big deal. We see that our Electrode needs 3 energies to deal his big 60 damage attack. We're going to play Electrode. We're going to play our second energy onto it. And we're going to hold on to the bicycle to get a little bit more value. Remember, a very important aspect of this game is card advantage. You want to draw as many cards as possible so you have the most resources to play. So, this is a pretty interesting matchup because this is the first matchup against the AI where the opponent is playing multiple energy types in their deck. So, for example, their Weedle takes a grass energy to use its attack, but their Dino uses dark energy to use its attack. However, the white ones, the white energies, can be covered by anything. So, for example, here the Scyther has a grass and a darkness energy attached, but it can still use any of its attacks because they're colorless. So here we're going to go on ahead and play. We're going to check our Giovanni's Scheme. What Giovanni's Scheme does is it either lets us draw cards until we have 5 in our hand, or during this turn, our attacks deal 20 more damage to our opponent's active. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on ahead and play the energy. We're going to use Giovanni's Scheme to make our attacks deal more damage, because when we knock this out, we still get to draw a card. But now we get to use... So we have a few options here. We can use Bicycle to draw 2. We can retreat our Electrode because it costs 0 to retreat into our Pikachu. And then use Switch to bring our Electrode out into the main, so we draw 3 cards from Bicycle. I think Switch is valuable, though, in case we are affected by a special condition later, so we can get that off. So we're going to go on ahead and Bicycle for 2. We'll play out our Eevee. We'll Electro Ball to take one of our prize cards. And we're in very good business. So a good way to gauge if you're winning or not winning is by the number of energies that you have in play. So our opponent has 1, and we have 3. This means that we should have access to stronger effects and more damage than our opponent does. So here, he wins both coin flips on his double hit. He barely squeaks out to not kill our Electrode. We're gonna we're gonna play Evo Soda. As I said earlier, there's no Jolteon in this deck, so we can't evolve our Eevee. We're gonna go grab our Raichu. Comes right into play and evolves our Pikachu. We play an energy here on the Raichu because we don't need to put any more on the Electrode, and Raichu's our next strongest card. The plan is to send in Raichu next turn, not Eevee, so we want to have this set up when our Electrode dies. Or when he faints. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up as much damage onto the Zweilous as possible. This is called chip damage. So chip damage is damage that doesn't just knock out the opponent, but it brings them into a range. So, like, it doesn't knock out the opponent, but it gives us the ability to. So here, he missed both double hits, but he didn't knock out our Electrode. So a misplay by the AI is to play the second energy out, because it knows that no matter what happens, it will not... Zweilous will be fainted by the time that he gets to 3 energies on it. So a much wiser play would have been to play the second energy onto the Venonat or onto the Weedle. So what we're going to do is we get to play our second energy onto Raichu. So he's set up to Thundershock, and then next turn to Electro Ball. And we're actually going to get to take a knockout with our sending all of their energies to the discard. So now we can see that we're even further ahead in resources because we have more cards in hand, more energy and more energy on the board. So now, like, our opponent doesn't have enough energy to use its Stun Spore attack, so we're actually going to get to take another free knockout with Electrode. But first we're going to go on ahead and review our hand. So we have this card called Magnetic Storm. This is a stadium, as you can see in the top right. And what a stadium does is it sits out onto the board. There can only be one in play, and whenever either player plays it, it switches to the new one. What this does is it says each Pokemon in play has no resistance. So we're going to hold on to this in case our opponent plays a card that has resistance to our attacks. Or if our opponent plays a stadium that we need to remove. So that reminder was to play an energy, and that's the only reminder that I keep on. The reason that I didn't use it is to accelerate our way through the tutorial. So here, our Electrode is finally knocked out. However, we do have the energy still to attach to Raichu and take our knockout with Electro Ball. So with our knockout, we've now completed the tutorial, and we gather all of our rewards. The professor here rewards us with a Togekiss V and a Sword and Shield Darkness Ablaze pack. So packs are how you expand your collection. There's a couple ways to expand your collection, but packs are what you get from the AI and from tournaments that let you grow. Packs that you get from the AI, you can't trade to other players. So congratulations, here are our rewards. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the collection to open our booster pack. So this takes us right to the pack opening screen. Normally whenever you get a pack, there's a little pop-up that comes up here and lets you jump straight to this screen. So we click on it and then we open it. It takes a second to generate. We click on the top. It plays this neat little animation that, you know, it always gives me the, you know, the serotonin, fuels that gambling addiction. And we get a whole bunch of cards. We get a water energy, and these are all out of, I think, the most recent standard set. So we get a whole bunch of decent cards, and then the rare is always hidden. So we click on the rare, it flips over, and we see that we got a Gothitelle. So none of these cards are fantastic, but they are a good baseline. So when we start building our decks, we kind of want to keep in mind what we have access to. So something that we might want early on is Skarmory, because it has a 1 energy attack that could potentially deal 50 damage. Or Dunsparce has an ability that lets us discard the top 2 cards of our opponent's deck. If we decide, like, if we have access to play a mill strategy, we might include Dunsparce into it. Otherwise, we have a bunch of basics and pre-evolutions. Furret is very strong because it draws 3 cards for 1 energy. That's a lot of card advantage. That's better than getting a knockout in the early game because it actually gives us more resources. Torchic is also very good because it lets us get Pokemon out of our bench. So it lets us make sure that if we have evolution cards in our hand, we can always play them. So, alright, now it's time we burn that bridge that I said we'd get to earlier. And that is the Pokemon TCGO Pokemon League. So, there's a lot of ways to get cards in this game. The best way for beginners is to challenge and defeat all of the members of the Pokemon League and earn all of their rewards. So you get rewards every time you beat one of the members, up to 4, and then you get a free pack. So you get increase in gold each time, and then a pack. This takes a very long time. There are 3 leagues, Gold, Platinum, and City Championship, and all 3 of them have 12 opponents. If you were to complete all of these as I'm recommending and getting all of the rewards, it's about 150, it's just under 150 games versus the AI. This can be overwhelming, and I don't recommend you do it all in one sitting. The biggest issue with this, though, is that you can't bring your own decks into this gauntlet. You have to play with a theme deck. And a theme deck is a pre-constructed deck that the game gives you that you either start with or you purchase from the shop. We're going to do a little bit of review on the theme decks that I recommend and the theme decks that you're given for free. So, we're going to start off by going through the Hidden Depths deck. So this is the water theme deck. And it's important to note, like, as you play through with these decks, all of these cards here that are grayed out are cards that are eventually removed and upgraded. I'm going to put the tables up for each one on screen as we get to them. The water deck, I think, is the best of the three. The reason for this is because it has access to Dive Ball, which searches your deck for a water Pokemon and puts it into your hand with no downside. The supporter package, all of them are very useful. Last Special and N are great card advantage. Wally is a good tutor that helps you get your evolution Pokemon. Fisherman helps you get your basic energies that you need back from your discard pile. Last Special allows you to draw extra cards. And Skyla helps you find all of the pieces that you need. So, for example, if you have Seeking and you need to use the Soaking Horn attack, which deals 80 more damage if Seeking was healed this turn, you can do a line like Skyla for Healing Scarf, play your energy, heal Seeking for 20, and get your 90 damage that you need. So this is the one that I would recommend starting with. I think this is the most powerful of the three. The Crushing Current list leaves a lot to be desired. The Pokemon are all fine. Again, I'm going to have this list up here for you. One of my big issues with this list is that Magnemite never gets its evolution, and Magnemite alone is pretty weak. The other thing is that it has a playset of Eevees, but we never get a Jolteon. It just kind of leaves a lot to be desired. This deck, if you want to play a lightning style deck though, and there is some unlocks at higher levels, specifically the 4-wind double colorless energy unlock is very, very helpful. So overall, this deck leaves a lot to be desired, but it is worth grinding at least up to 7 wins, but I would not do the whole Pokemon League with this deck. Then the Born of Fire deck is somewhere in the middle. The upgrades are fine. You get the extra Persian, you get some extra draw support, and the Judge. However, it just kind of leaves like a lot to be desired as well. Like this deck's draw scheme is fine. Professor Sycamore is phenomenal. Lysander's very good. Judge is fine. One issue that I have with these theme decks, though, is that a lot of the cards in them, or almost all of the cards in them, are no longer standard legal. And that's pretty unfortunate because standard is very much the format I recommend getting into. Overall, this deck is just fine. Scorched Earth is very, very good. As explained earlier, Town Map is very, very bad. There's a lot of give and take with this. But of these three, I prefer the Hidden Depths list. And that's what I'm going to be using to grind through the Pokemon League, at least to start with. So, you have options beside these. And you can purchase them in the store for in-game currency. Something I very much like about this game is there is no premium currency. There is no, like, you cannot just put your credit card in and purchase cards for this game. Instead, if you want to spend real money, you have to go buy real cards. So every single pack, every pre-constructed deck that you buy at a store comes with a code that you can import online and get a copy of it. So as we go through the store, a quick overview is the featured page is the 3 newest standard sets. Booster packs are sorted by how old they are, ranging from the newest set all the way back to Heart Gold, Soul Silver, which released in, I believe, 2010 or 2011. And if you want to start playing Expanded or Legacy, this is a good place to start coming to get some of your things. One issue with cards you buy from the store in here cannot be traded using the game's trading economy. Only the cards that you win in tournaments or redeem from codes can be used, or can be traded amongst players. But we don't need to get into that right now. We need to start with decks, and I'm not going to go into full analysis over every theme deck in this video. That will be something that is upcoming. Just straight out of the gate, I recommend the Charizard deck. The reason for this is the Charizard is very, very good. He's got 170 HP. He does over 100 damage for just 2 fire energies. He helps draw cards. He fuels his own effect. The deck doesn't have a very high energy count. The support Pokemon, Magcargo and Lugia, are both fine. They're not amazing, but they're decent. Evolution Incense helps you get your Charizards. Great Ball helps you get your Charizards. Ordinary Rod helps you get your the Pokemon and your energies that you mill back. Sophia helps you get set up. Professor's Research lets you draw a lot of cards in the mid-game. Bead lets you play extra energies. Hop is a fine draw spell. Dan is a fine draw spell. Always pick paper with Dan. Just what I do. Leon, and Leon is the weakest supporter, but it's what the deck is built around. It allows you to KO some very high HP Pokemon, specifically Pokemon V that you're worried about. And other stage 2s. So this is the deck that I would recommend, right off the gate. This is the deck I've had the most success with, and this is what we're going to start with on this channel, is buying 2 copies of this deck. So we have all of the supporters that we need to start playing the game in Standard. And that's what I recommend to you as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Trainer Challenge. I'm going to start grinding all of these up so I get all of the cards from them. I'm going to save up my gold. I'm going to buy the Charizard theme deck. And we're going to start probably in just a few episodes building in Standard. So the plan is for the next episode to go over all of the theme decks, if they're upgradable, if they're viable, that are currently in Standard. So starting with the Cinderace deck, we're going to go over and break down all of those. I'll show you some potential deck lists, and we're going to go from there. I hope that you've enjoyed this first episode. I know that I have. There's a long road ahead of us, but I'm going to teach you how to optimize everything about this game.